All right. Good evening, everyone. Abusia Numere Ebada Nyamiasibiem for the opportunity or the alliance. Yes, I ebebiem. I think it's been a while. Muhui and life is so busy with everything going on. But yeah, the more for patience and for bearing with us.
Yeah,
And Numere so yeah, Ebada. Dr. Wase for the time. I know, sir, it's been a busy day. It's been a busy day,
Hmm.
but now we are for Sunny Abeya, yeah, for no, will share in the information, yeah, what the beer than internet, you make it time, even when we are busy, to come
That's
here
right.
and provide some of this information. Yeah, and dog, yeah, my kind of one, yeah, for so aquaba before we
Oh,
get to, yeah.
that was up for mature Biao. Again, yeah, yes, I have been as brother Sims Ekayano. We've been away for a little bit. You probably busy brutal and but I'll say you try your best to make sure say come back here and give you guys great information. So hopefully in today number to me I'm more much my as soon as they be
Yeah. All right, dog. That's it. Nti,
Right.
yɛma yɛtiefo nyinaa nso akɔ aba baabi a wotie yɛn afiri biara no sɛ yɛ online radio sɛ yɛ Facebook anaasɛ YouTube a yɛma wakɔ aba to yɛ financial program wei no. Deɛ ɛba bɛka ho asɛm no, yɛnim sɛ at the end of the day no, at least you get something out of it. And not only sir, you're just listening, but wotie no so no na wherever you need to make changes in Wasitinamo. Maybe not necessarily you, but you have a friend, a family member, somebody that needs help in these areas.
Yep.
You share the information with that person. And you may know, I'm said the last day, we talked about, in fact, credit score. You can about your credit and the various things are a call into your credit more, how to improve your credit. And even when you have it, how do you maintain it? And what is a good credit score? As we talked about, the impact in some of it, say having a good credit, sometimes it even makes a big difference on the interest rate on the loans are not necessarily your car loans, but also your student loans and also your mortgage.
Yep.
And
Yep.
having a good credit score, it helps to be able to get and save a lot on the different loans. Unfortunately, near to Krobimua, you cannot do without some of these things like loans and it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Once in a while, yeah, you get it. Once in a while, we wish to say, yeah, was sikani to buy car cash. Unfortunately, it's not possible. I wish to say we have like 300,000 or 400,000 buy a house cash. It's
Yep.
impossible. So you run into that is you need a loan and you do all this in and you may say a transition kakra into your can't debt a car as your can or your chrome no a car. What is it? And how do you even manage it? And a cabin or what are you good? And answer a car no and you're good. What are some of the car you bet me a car so a car with you a good a car. So let me get it. And a car were into there. No, it's something I can definitely do without it. So why uh, get into it? And uh, to for us to start, we probably besides you can't debt. What is it? What is debt all about? Yeah, take the time ni bebre ni ade. And dog. So which me up and just to break it down a little bit for us in terms of you can't debt. What is debt all?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And I think, sir, is debt. The topic of debt is a very good topic to follow credit because they really tie in and go hand in hand together, right? You know, whenever you debt, the Bible tells us what the debtor is what is slave to the lender, right? You know, so when you owe somebody money, you pretty much what you are in debt with that person, right? So whether you owe them money, whether you owe them an asset, whatever it is, that most times when you talk about debt, it's about money or somebody do a favor for you, right? Now you are indebted to them to return a favor to them, you know, at some point, right? But most times in finance, when we talk about debt, we're talking about what? Money, right? And at the end of the day, right, debt is not bad, depending on how you're looking at it or for what you're doing with it, right? I think a lot of times there's a misconception that, oh, debt is bad. Yes, it's biblically stated that, you know, the borrower is slaves to the lender. And in most cases, it's true, right? But if you are borrowing to put yourself in a better position to be able to do well financially, then that debt is not bad, as long as it's manageable and you have the resources to be able to pay for that debt, right? A lot of times, or most times, if you go and take, that's why they tell you there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? If you go and take get a whole bunch of credit cards, you go and spend it buying all these material things, shoes, clothes, outfits, all those things, you know, to look good. There's nothing wrong with looking good, but if you go and you overcharge your credit cards and now you can't pay for those things, that's a bad debt. That's a consumer debt, right? And any interest rate that's on that credit card that you have to pay, you cannot write that off your taxes. So that's a bad debt, right? Yeah, you're looking good, but you're broke. And you have a lot of debt on your credit cards that you can't pay for because you're not making enough income to pay for those debts, right? It makes no sense. But like I said, on the other hand, if you go and you take, let's just say a credit card, right? Or you take whatever loan to go purchase an asset that is going to bring you cash flow, that's going to bring you money, guess what? That's a good debt. Because why? That debt is now bringing you cash flow that you didn't have before, right? You could use that cash flow to service that debt, right? Meaning you could use the cash flow to pay what? The interest and to pay the principal of that debt, right? And guess what? Once the debt is paid off, you now own the asset and it's still providing cash flow, as opposed to going to go take money or take credit card to go buy material things, right? Clothes, shoes, all those things. At the end, or even a car, if you're not using it for business purposes, in the end, it's still a consumer debt that gives you no benefit and is actually a depreciating asset. People don't even know you could take a credit card and you could buy a house on a credit card. As crazy as it sounds, it's possible. People have done it, right? But a lot of times when we get credit cards, we don't think about that. We don't think that we can do that with that. We take credit cards, and the first thing is to buy things that make us feel good, to buy material things or be consumer based. But the wealthy can use credit cards to go purchase assets that can make them money. They can use that money, turn around to pay off the debt, right? So debt, don't always look at it from the lens of it being negative. Look at it from the perspective of how can I use this debt to build wealth for me and my family, right? Because if you're building wealth, you could pay off that debt eventually.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, without having to go too much into detail, that's really, you know, at least from my perspective, when I hear debt, that's the best way for me to be able to describe it, because it's not bad and it's not good, depending on your perspective and depending on what you exactly are you going into debt for. And the funny thing is, if you're going into debt for the right reasons, the country actually give you benefits when it comes to your taxes. There are a lot of things you can write off on business debt as compared to consumer debt, right? So there are a lot of benefits if you know what you're doing.
Correct. Yeah, Doc, that was a year for taking the time to your friends breaking it down for us, you know. And like you rightly said, you can't a debt yet an obligation.
Sure.
You know, it's an obligation between two people.
Yeah.
Two parties, and one is the debtor, which is me. I become the debtor. Then the other Sikano ebo besiano becomes my creditor.
Editor. Yep.
So at the end, it's two people agreeing on say, okay, I want to give you like $500, Dr. Wu, I give you $500, and my expectation is that $500 you pay it back to me in a year or 6 months, whatever the term that we agree on. In addition to that, I also expect to say at the end of it, you will give me an interest.
That's right.
An agreed interest, maybe 1%, 2%, whatever it is. At some point in our life, and especially in the Chrome, some of us at some point, we have entered into that obligation, that contractual obligation between us and either Bank of America or between your friends, or whatever, student loans near there. Pretty much, that is what debt is all about. A car, to do something. I don't just get up and say, Jessica, with no intention behind, say, what am I going to do with the money? No, there has to be a reason behind Sasika na mekwakoje. It mekwaje ya no Sasika no becomes a car to me.
Yeah.
So the next question, and Dr. What you started on that path, sir, we want to now differentiate to say, okay, yes, a car is an obligation. If it's an obligation there, do we have a good debt and a bad debt? A car be or why? A car where they are very good. No matter what, I need it. And a car be or in fact, I can do without it. So if I don't get it, I can still survive.
Yeah.
So for to break it down, who said a kabi or are you good?
Sure.
A kabi or it's not good.
Sure.
The difference. And so if you can help us to be able to determine what is a good debt and what is a bad debt. Now you're taking from there.
So at the end of the day, right? Whenever you hear bad debt, right, pretty much you have to think of it as something that's not beneficial to you when it comes to your finances, right? So, for example, if I go take $20,000, or if I have a credit card and I go to the store and I spend $20,000 buying, shoes, buying clothes, buying, even just buy anything, right? You always have to think about asset and liability. You always have to think about it from that perspective. You say, okay, this thing I'm going to go buy. Is it an asset or is it a liability? If you say, hey, this thing is liability, then that's a bad debt, right? Because an asset brings you money. Liability takes money away from you. A lot of times, even our own houses that we live in could be liability because why? It's taking money away from us, right? But it's also good because why? It's also building equity, right? So now own a home or own a rental home, that is a good debt because why? That rental home is generating me money every single month, and I can take the money and the profit from that to pay the interest or to pay that debt off to eventually own that property. Right? If I go take $200K and I go buy a car with it, that's a bad debt because why? That car is not an asset. It's a liability because guess what? The car depreciates so quickly right after you leave the lot. But that house is constantly and always appreciating for the most part. So the car take money from your pocket, but the house bring money to your pocket. Now, if you are somebody who's savvy enough, you can now take the expensive car and you can make it into an asset. How? You can rent it, right? You can use it as a, somebody can come and rent it. When they travel out of town, they come and rent it. They have this turbo. They have to go something about turbo, where it's a business mindset where people can rent your car and they pay you money.
Right.
Right now, you have now made that car an asset,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you know for sure a house definitely is an asset because why? That is bringing you money. So you always have to think about it like this. Anything that's bringing me money, it's an asset. And anything that's taking my money, it's a liability. If I go and take a $30 loan and go to school to get a good education, that's what? An asset. Because why? I'm an asset. So by getting education, I'm making myself better, more marketable, and more valuable to my society. Right? So like now, that $30,000 to go put myself through school, I can come out, make more money than I did before I went to school. And then what? Be able to pay that money back. But yet I'm still making more money. Because why? That $30,000 is now what? A great debt. Because why? I took it to make myself better. Right? Somebody who runs a trucking business, they can go take, let's just say $400,000 and go buy a bunch of trucks on a fleet.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a regular car that's consumer based. What? Those trucks are his business. Those trucks go out every single day and bring money. Right? If they break down, the expenses on those cars are tax write-offs.
Right.
Right? So guess what? Those things are generated as money, so they are an asset. If I go buy anything that I go and buy that cannot bring me a monetary benefit, it's a liability. Now, you can say, well, I bought this thing here and it made me very happy. No problem. Right? I'm not against, buying things. I always say treat yourself. You work hard, take care of yourself, make sure that you get the thing that you need to be able to feel happy and so forth, right? But don't let those things become the major thing where you're going to go borrow money, you're going to go use credit to go buy it because you can't afford it. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But don't go use your credit cards to not put yourself into debt. Now that item can make you happy for what? 1 week, but now it's becoming a problem because why? You can't afford it. So it's really about knowing having the right perspective, having the right mindset, and knowing what am I borrowing this money for. For example, I could tell you, I have no problem borrowing money to go buy a property, money to go buy, to go invest, whatever it is, as long as I know that, hey, whatever I'm going to invest in, I can make a greater return on my investment than what the interest rate is paying. Right? Because if I go take a $200K loan, charging me 15%, but yet my business can I earn me 4 to 5%? That's a bad debt. Oh, that's a bad thing. Because why? No matter what I went to go buy with, even though I'm making interest on it, it cannot make me enough to be able to pay this thing off eventually, right? So you always have to think about why you're borrowing them. What is the purpose? If the purpose is to just go buy things, material things, they might bring you momentarily happiness, but a long term, they can become a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if you take that money, you go and start a business, you go buy an established business that is generating money. Now, although you have debt, it's a good debt because why? You have now bought a business that is making money. So in a very short period of time, you could pay that debt off. And once again, as I mentioned, if you look at a U.S. tax code, the way they've designed it, if you are a business owner and you are able to use that the right way, the debt can be an asset to you. A lot of real estate investors, a lot of real estate, experts, they use debt to build wealth. But the person that has a consumer mindset, that debt is not becoming a detriment. Because why? Debt is the number one cancer when it comes to building financial wealth. Consumer debt, bad debt. And we have to know the difference. A lot of times, human nature, we let you go out there, go shop. Oh, I want to feel good. We make these impulse purchases, these impulse buys. Because why? We don't have any concept of hey, this thing is a bad debt. Because it's not bringing me any value. But once you have a proper understanding, you can now make better financial decisions. And literally, I can go on and on and on because this is a very, very important topic. Good debt and bad debt, right? Because a lot of times we are going through life struggling, making the wrong decisions because we think they're good, but in actuality, they don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. You've said it all about your friends, your debt. You're here for if you know what journey I say, if I say, na yama wakwa but to and you marry a financial program and all. The year come debt management. How do I manage my debts? Now, what is a car? You can define what a car is. Now, what we are trying to analyze right now is you walk be or what you see you good, and you walk be or what you see and yet. And Dr. Wua Aboyen broken it down in terms of what is good and what is bad. Also, Dr. Wua made a very important statement to be. I want to repeat, sir. It's not about me calling to a car just to feel good. I want to feel good about myself, so let me go and buy this. You feel good for a week, and after a week, then what do you do with a $20,000 boat now, and what do you do with it? $50,000 boat, what do you do with it after that week, Inti anana analyzing into Dr. Wabo bought Nyoma Bebre. So on say, for example, when it comes into one of the things that Dr. Waka about car, on say America hired, depending on which area would it. Some areas you need a car in order for you to go to work. Okay. And at some areas, and so you don't need a car. You can either jump on the bus or the train to go to work. Let's check, for example, say, an area, the area, no, there's no bus, there is no train. So I need a car to go to work. So if I buy a car, the question is that car, no, even though it will depreciate in value, is that a good debt or a bad debt? The answer, I 50-50. It depends your situation. A car, depending on the situation, can be a good debt for you. It's needed for you to go to work. So, for example, I can buy a car, $20,000, $10,000. A bit to me, the free point A to point B. And the all right, no problems, nothing. And think about it this way. I can also buy a BMW. I can buy Maserati, whatever it is, for $50,000, $100,000, and also to go to work. So the question becomes, and it's how do I weigh my priorities when we determine? So Makoto, a basic Toyota, a Honda, BB, within my means. Me bota and say I'm using this car as a means of transportation to go to work to earn money. Then it becomes a good debt. But so may yes sir, let me buy this luxurious Ford Mustang B, convertible near you. Let me go and buy it. I buy it. That becomes a bad debt because you don't really need it. And Dr. Wasan mentioned about your friend say, to improve my life, to improve my life. And a typical example is me loan na school. To go to school to improve my life. That student loan becomes a good debt for me.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I'll go to school, I'll finish. Education is powerful. Nobody can take it away from you. To pay back Sadia. I think about it and they say, I get up this morning, me se me kwa loan, na me di akoto suit, mako 100. And they are me closet in for what reason? And for so bia enya so. So yet here for what we are trying to establish in this, there is a kabi oha a who on faso, a kabi ohonswa a who nim faso. And Dr. One mentioned, for example, me tofie, me name a family, a drew stage be how we feel say we need a house. So me tofie na, give it about 5 years, 10 years. This house will appreciate in value. So it becomes a good debt for me. Inti, I hope you say, you're explaining more examples about what a good debt is and what a bad debt is. Adie bia emfa any improvement emra wakwan mu. Adie bia eka bia emmoa in any way. But like Dr. West said, it makes you feel good now. But tomorrow you are back to square one. It's something that your friend is saying we need to be able to find a way to avoid say. Dog minim say will be or how the back can then we move on here.
Oh no! I mean, I think said as earlier I went in as much depth as I needed to go. I think said once we really understand the difference between bad debt and good debt, it help us to be able to make some smart decisions, right? And at the end of the day, like I said, you always think about it. Let's say you make $12 an hour, right? And you go buy an item that costs you $200. How many hours do you have to work to make $200? So that means you have to always look at this thing I'm buying here. Is it really worth this many hours I have to work to make that money?
Yeah.
When you tie those things together now, it helps you to be able to spend your money the right way. Right? And also, if you're going to go buy something, ask yourself, can I afford this? Truly afford this without struggle? Can I buy this thing 3 times over? Now, if you can, then okay, you go ahead and you buy the thing, right? Like I said, I'm never saying don't go buy things, material things. We human beings, we need these things. We want to look good. There's nothing wrong with that. Treat yourself, but don't go into debt to do that, right? Don't go into debt to do that, because at the end of the day, you don't have the means to pay for that debt, and it can become a burden or a nightmare. That happiness for that 1 week happiness you had cannot turn into what? A nightmare. Yeah. And also always ask yourself, this thing I'm going to buy, is it something that I really need? I must have in my life that is gonna really help benefit my life, improve my life, get me to the next level? Or is it something that I want to get it because I want it? Because guess what? The things that we want, every week a new thing will come and replace that. Right? We're human beings. We want things, right? So it's really about, your income, how much you're making, to be able to determine how much you can afford these things, right? Like I said, if you just put most of your money towards things that are asset, that are going to bring you more to you, that's going to improve your life, they're going to make you a better person, that's going to bring more to you, bring more assets to you, bring more money, more growth to you, then yes, there's nothing wrong with going to debt to achieve those things. Because why? Those things can see, it's called servicing the debt. Those things by themselves can pay for the debt. For example, if I get a rental property, right, after financing it, if the rental property is going to cost me $1,200 per month, but I have a tenant that's paying me $1,600 per month or $2,000 per month, I'm making what? $800 extra every month.
Right.
That's a major asset.
Right.
Because why? I can pay that $1,200 that is costing me to service that debt every month, and yet now I have $800 cash flow. Now that became a whole new source of income. Now, what could I do with that income? Could I save it to eventually buy another investment property that's going to give me a similar return, right? So you can see how by getting into debt, you are also inadvertently creating cash flow,
right?
To be able to service those debt, right? The key thing is to make sure that whatever you're getting, you have the means, either the thing can pay for itself, or you have the means to be able to pay for it without having to go into more debt.
Yeah. Yes, I mean that's so true. And then let me pitch in with Wayne. Someone said, the more debts we have, it limits us from also investing.
Yes.
Because the thing is, right now, beginning Makojije all these different credit cards, Matuto Nyoma like it's not necessary now.
Yeah.
So my cash flow is limited.
Tight, yeah.
Because at the end of every month, what I have to do is I'm thinking about making payments on these debts. So my ability to even think about investment, I am very less because I don't. Yeah, exactly. It's compromised. Thank you for the word. It's compromised. So because I don't have excess cash flow to think about investing. Oh, and see, what we are trying to draw right now is managing our debts, and it's very crucial for our financial survival. An example, last week I was just talking to one of my friends, and you say iPhone 14 about. He has iPhone 13. But no prene say obekwa iPhone 14. And I'm like, I just said, what do you need that phone for? The phone that you currently have, is just to make and receive calls, check why and all this. So do you really have to keep up with all these new releases in the idea? Think about it. It's not something you're buying in cash. You're probably using your credit card, or you're doing a payment plan on these phones. Is it really something a better value to you based on the fact that you already have an iPhone 13? It works perfect. So, but some of us, this is how we fall into debt. We're thinking about, okay, what are the causes of debt? What are some of it that Nyoma cause us to go into a car? And one of the things, the way we live, our lifestyle, because some of us in our expensive lifestyle, and they lead to all the different car because it's like, say, we want to keep up with society. I have seen Dr. Ewa with this car, so I need it. I need to go and buy this car. Dr. Ewa bought this house, so I also need to go and buy this house. Dr. Ewa's kids now going to this school, they have to go to this school. Either I can afford it or not. I care less about that. I will take up a loan and do all and one of the things I tell people is changes in our family setup, can bring financial burden on us. For example, you are married. It's good. Everything is good. But anytime you have a kid, that brings another different dimension to your friend is saying.
Absolutely.
The relationship and the family finances.
Yeah.
I remember was it last week? Yeah, my wife and myself, we were talking and thinking about our kids and when they were little. We moved from Michigan, and Michigan, not the two of them, they were in daycare. We were paying like $360 a month for daycare. Okay, we moved to Maryland, and it was $545 a week for two people. So just that change in
really,
it's huge,
massive.
I just said it can drain your finances. One year you go into your finances. And yet for seven hour journey, care about how we can manage some of these unnecessary expenses. Fire home and call a cabo too much. Send a to have peace of mind. Imagine, say, you don't have any debt, you sleep in peace. But when you are overstretched now, when you have the collection agency calling you and all these people calling you out, and no one can be stressful, it can affect your health. At least the able boss or no, to me, and No, what are I can, but in your perspective, what are some of the things and so bet me a lady and into falling into sad debt,
What are some of things that can lead us into to fall into debt?
Yeah, like the causes of your
Sure,
financial, yeah.
sure. I think a lot of times, I think you mentioned the biggest thing, right? Is we are trying to compare ourselves to other people. That's really a lot of times in my experience, the biggest issue is we're trying to, oh, I see my friend has this, I see my sibling have this, I want to get the same thing. Not taking into consideration that, hey, my friend or my sibling could be making more money. My friend or my sibling could be married and have a spouse, so the household income is bigger than me by myself that's single, right? So there are a lot of things you have to really, really take into consideration, right? And also, we're trying to appear rich instead of being rich. And by trying to appear like you have money, by spending money, you're actually going backwards. You becoming more broker, right? And consuming more debt. And that's really the thing that we have to be very, very mindful, very careful, because guess what? Debt is very subtle, right? They don't come after you right away. They wait until accumulate to a certain point when they know, hey, by the way things are going, this person cannot pay. Now all these people, all these creditors are coming after you. What's going to happen? You're going to be in so much debt that guess what? You're going to want to file bankruptcy. You now go ahead and file bankruptcy. Now that has completely destroyed your credit for at least 7 to 10 years. Your credit is destroyed. Now in that 7 to 10 years span, you can't buy a house. You can't buy anything of tangible means. You have to do everything for the most part through cash. Nobody will extend you credit, right? So by just that one decision to try to appear rich or try to live like the Joneses or try to live like, somebody that has money or somebody that look like they have money, you have now put yourself in this predicament that has completely destroyed you. And once bankruptcy is on your credit file, those things are very hard to delete, right? So a lot of times, it's just our own human greed. Human beings by nature, we are greedy people. We are also jealous people. What somebody has, we want to have also. Not trying to live within our means, not considering, hey, I don't make the kind of money this person might make. I don't have enough resources to be able to pay for my debt because this debt I'm bringing on, I have no way to be able to pay for it. I don't make enough money. I make minimum wage. But yet the thing I'm trying to buy, minimum wage cannot buy that. I want to get an apartment, right? But I want to get in the nicest neighborhood, although I can't afford it. So right now, this is why over 60% of the U.S. population is living check to check. This is for every dollar they're making, they're spending $1.33. You see what I'm saying? So guess what? Every single time, every single month, that means if you miss one paycheck, you out on the street. Just think about that. We are living in the wealthiest nation in the world, but yet over 60% of the population live check to check. Why? Because they're not even thinking about, hey, I need to save some money so that at some point I will be able to have something to fall back on in case I get into a situation. It's all about consumer mindset. Buy. And guess what? The entire economy knows. This is why when the economy shuts down and people stop spending money, the economy's in trouble. Because the economy relies on people going shopping. You see what I'm saying? The entire system is designed for us to go shopping, to get happy. Oh, so, that's why when people go shopping, they're so happy. Oh, I feel so depressed. Let me go shopping. Why is it that shopping is what alleviates your stress? Not saving the money. It's our perspective, the way we see money, the way we view money, right? And because we're not taught about debt and how detrimental debt can be, we're always falling into it. But once we know the difference between good debt and bad debt, we can make decisions accordingly. Like I said, when I go to the bank to go borrow money, to go purchase something, I know precisely what I'm borrowing that money for. There's no doubt in my mind that what I'm about to go buy is an asset. Because why? instead of taking 20K to go buy me a liability, that don't make me nothing. I would take an 20K to go buy an asset that will make me the money to go buy the liability.
Yeah.
At least I still own the asset.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doug. And you said one thing, I think, summarize greed. Greed. He said, as humans, we are not content with what we have.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, do you need 20 or 30 pairs of shoes? Do you need 50 shirts? Do you need pants, bare 40? Do you need all that? You can only wear one at a time.
Yeah.
So do I need 3 or 4 cars sitting in front of my house?
Yeah.
Do I need that expensive car? No. Do I need that? Can I afford it? Yeah. Also, these are some of the things that you say a day a car ever. Into enumerate for taking the time, to be with us. Na your debt management nyame adon next week nyame ede yankwa ede che besan atoa so na yehu by chance be how falling into that trap how do I get out of it? What are some of the things I can do to help manage the stress me go through right now? Nti dog ya beda wase enwumre so ya tiefon so ya da muhina ase for more time na nyame enhira mo bebre nti until say next week ya be share nyame.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.